episodes of my vlog. So in today's video, I am going to share content about what is capitalism. So be sure to watch and listen to this whole video because I can guarantee you will learn something from it. So without further ado, let's begin! So as I've said, my topic for today is all about capitalism. And here are the learning objectives of today's discussion. First is to define the capitalism concept. Second is to discuss the main features of capitalism. And the third one is to explore its pros and cons. So first, I am going to give you the definition of what capitalism is. Capitalism is also called as a free market economy or an economic system in which trade, industry, and the means of production are being controlled by private owners with the goal of making profits in a market company rather than the government. The private individuals or businesses own capital goods and factors of production. It is also called This is based on simple process such that money is invested to generate more money. And individual rights rule the capitalistic ideal and implementation. Private individuals like small businesses, organizations, and corporations, they make independent decisions about the prices, the production, and the distribution of goods. So ideally, it results to a self-regulating market. And one best example of this is the development of virtual meeting tools that had made it possible for companies to implement remote work, which creates job opportunities for people around the world. And another thing is that this has also made virtual learning accessible on large scale, so something that proved critical in this COVID-19 pandemic. And capitalism is under the two tenets: the private ownership rights, which means that it is owned by a private individual, or the right of a private organization rather by the state or public. The other one is the voluntary trade that happens when the buyers and sellers freely and willingly engaging in market transactions. Hong Kong is the most capitalist country. It is one of the most interesting countries in the world and a special administrative region in China. This country is proved for global trade and investment. This is because its economy is very open. There are no tariffs of goods imported into Hong Kong, and many businesses and people go to Hong Kong to trade and invest. Another thing is that in capitalism, the private enterprise controls the factors of production: the land, capital, labor, and entrepreneurship. And these four are very important economic concepts outlining the elements to produce a good or a service for sale. First is the land. Land refers to raw materials come from agricultural land to commercial real estate to the natural resources, such as the energy from the sun, forest, rock, minerals, animals, air, and many more. Next is the capital. In economics, it typically refers to money, but money is not a factor of production because it is not directly involved in producing goods and services. However, this is the purchase of goods made with money in production. Like in the given example, a tractor purchased for farming is an example of capital. Third is the labor. This is the effort of an individual to bring products to the market. For example, the construction worker at a working site, or a farmer who works on a farm. And the last factors of production is the entrepreneurship. It provides innovation and creativity, and it is a secret sauce that combines the previous discussed factors: the land, the capital, and the labor. An example for this is the evolution of social media behemoth Facebook Incorporated. And now let's move on to the main features of capitalism. A capitalist economy is always having the institution of private property, from the simple words private and property, which means that an individual can accumulate property and use it according to his or her will. It promotes efficiency by giving the owner of resources an incentive to maximize its value, and a property is entitled to any value associated with property. Like, for example, if a man discovered an unknown island and began to clear the land and build a shelter, he is considered the rightful owner of that land. And the role of government for this is to protect the right to property. Second is the right to inheritance. Since an individual can acquire or can accumulate private property, the right of inheritance takes place also. It means that everybody has a right to acquire property, to keep it, and after his death, to pass it on his heirs. It is the most important feature of capitalism is the existence of private property and the system of inheritance. Next is the freedom of enterprise. Capitalism is also called as free enterprise economy. Businesses are free from government control, and the government does not have a central plan for the nation's economy. And with this, prices go up and down because of supply and demand. If there's high demand, prices go up. If there's low demand, prices go down. People can follow occupations of their ability and task. Moreover, there is a freedom of entering contracts, like for example, in opening a coffee shop. The coffee lover is free to open his or her own business in a free enterprise system. And the fourth one is the freedom of choice for consumers. This pertains to people that can choose when and how they want to participate in market transactions, whether it is by entrepreneur or as a consumer. Moreover, it is a voluntary exchange coordinated by markets and a freedom to enter and compete in markets. The fifth one, we have profit motive. The main purpose of economy or a company is to make profit. We human beings are basically economic creatures. That's why entrepreneurs and businesses prepared to take high risk in order to invest money and to generate more money. And most importantly, profit motive is the soul of capitalist economy. Next is the competition. It is a driving force. Innovations create their ways in order to accomplish tasks efficiently. Entrepreneurs here compete for getting the highest profit. Workers compete among themselves as well as with machines. And on the other side, buyers also compete for purchasing goods and services. Like for example, from the companies like Samsung, Huawei, Nokia, etc., they began to compete and create and sell smartphones for lower prices. Seventh is the price mechanism, or also called as market mechanism. This type of economy has a freely working price mechanism to guide consumers. Free working of the supply and demand forces without any intervention. And under this system, the whole economic system moves in and around the market mechanism, and also it is acting as the regulating system in capitalist society. Another thing is that producers helped by the price mechanism in deciding what to produce, how much to produce, when and where to produce. And the last feature of capitalism is the less role of government. So what does it mean? Capitalism, again, as its definition states, that trade, industry, and the means of production are being controlled by the private owners rather than the government. Yes, it's true. However, the government has its very limited duty or role upon this economic system, and this is to regulate money supply and to protect its citizens from force or fraud. The third objectives of today's lesson is to explore the pros and cons of capitalism. The first pros of capitalism, we have economic freedom helps political freedom. It invariably leads to a powerful state and creates a large bureaucracy which may extend into other areas of life. Economic freedom helps political freedom in a way that the government couldn't interfere on the market transactions or economic system. Second pros is efficiency. Firms in a capitalist society face incentives to be efficient and produce goods which are in high demand. Third is innovation. Capitalism has a dynamic where entrepreneurs and firms are seeking to create and develop profitable products. Entrepreneurs invest in new products which may be popular with consumers, and so it can lead to product development and more choice of goods. The fourth pros is economic growth. With firms and individuals facing incentives to be innovative and work hard, this creates a climate of innovation and economic expansions. This helps to increase living standards and everyone can be benefited from the increased wealth everyone can be benefits from the increased wealth. After the pros of capitalism, let's move on to its cons. First is the monopoly power. Monopoly is a firm who is the sole seller of its product and where there are no close substitutions. So what's the bad side of this is that monopoly power can exploit this position to charge higher prices. Like for example, Microsoft and Windows. Since the firm is only the sole seller, they can provide high prices to those who are going to purchase the products. Second is the monopoly power is when a firm is the sole purchaser of a good or service. The classic example of this is the Apple. According to Dedu, Apple has become not a monopoly but a monopsony wherein the one buyer can control an entire market. What's the bad side upon having this monopsony power is that firms with having this or having monopsony power can pay lower wages to workers. Next is inherited wealth and wealth inequality. A capitalist society is based on a legal right to provide a private property and having the ability to pass on wealth to future generations. Capitalist society is fair because you gain the rewards of your hard work, but often people are rich simply because they inherit wealth or are born into a privileged class. Therefore, capitalist society not only fails to create equality of outcome but also fails to provide equality of opportunity. And the last cons of capitalism is inequality creates social division. Inequality creates social division in which societies are highly unequal, create resentment and social division. Like for example, a firm may develop monopoly power. If firms have monopoly power, they can get away with paying a wage much lower than the productivity of the worker. And workers have no choice but to work for a very low wage. And that's why it is being said that inequality creates social division in capitalism.